Hey everybody, it's PartyElite, and today we're taking another look at some absolutely massive summer sale deals for you to take advantage of. As always, my focus remains on more strategic and tactical games, from 4X to turn-based tactics to city building and more. And if you're looking for even more great deals, albeit at higher price points, I'll have a video linked in the pinned comments. But this video is dedicated to games you can currently pick up for under or just around 10 bucks. Now, with no more time to waste, and with timestamps down below, let's begin. Loop Hero is an excellent game with a very simple yet addictive gameplay loop that is really about knowing your limits and when to call it. Set after the complete destruction of the world, you have the power to rebuild it piece by piece over the course of any given sortie, using cards from an ever-growing deck and unlocking additional character classes that all play wildly differently. For any given profile, you have a central camp that you always return to, with options to upgrade it over time with the help of resources you acquire when taking on the world. Every time you leave the camp, you're welcomed by a singular path in a black void. Your character unwaveringly follows this path, engaging in battle against the various dangerous creatures that block it, gathering loot and the aforementioned resources as he does so. This continues on and on until you decide to retreat back to camp. Doing so near camp means you return with everything you've acquired, while doing so far away from camp asks you to drop part of what you would have otherwise brought back. But that's obviously not all there is to the game. Cards from your deck get drawn over time, each with limitations on where they can be played, introducing a variety of costs and benefits when you do so. One card placed on the path might generate enemies nearby, but walking through the placed tile generates a resource. Another kind of card might increase how much HP you replenish with each loop, or what your maximum HP actually is. But while adjacency bonuses can make these cards and their tiles even stronger, they might also introduce an even stronger enemy type that wouldn't otherwise spawn. As you go through multiple loops along the same path, you end up placing more cards, facing more enemies, and acquiring more resources and loot until ultimately you're either killed in battle or you decide to retreat to camp. It all sounds very simple, but thinking about where to place certain tiles, swapping equipment to best match your current needs, and upgrading your camp appropriately are all important aspects of the game, and it's very easy to get completely consumed by Loop Hero every time you sit down for what you think is going to be a short session. Desperados 3 is a stealth tactics game that I've recommended countless times. I think it's well worth full price even so many years after launch, so when it's on such a deep discount, I think it's worth picking up whether you're a fan of the genre or have never given it a shot before. As a prequel, you don't need to be familiar with the setting to enjoy the narrative that has you following a cast of characters, each with their own set of abilities and limitations, as you go from level to level, trying to find synergies between the ones you have on hand at any given time. You'll sneak from cover to cover, keeping an eye out for enemy lines of sight, tossing coins or flirting to distract guards, whistling them over to step into bear traps, or using voodoo magic to possess them and clear a path. You'll find multiple solutions to the same problem, carving your own path on meticulously designed and crafted levels, and then playing the same level over and over again to see if you can do better, or if you can accomplish one or all of the various extra challenges available for the level, really putting your skills to the test. The game is very challenging and absolutely addictive. There's no feeling quite like overcoming a section that was previously kicking you around, and finding alternate solutions and synergies is just an absolute blast, even when you've already spent countless hours with the game. Desperados 3, again as I said before, is an easy game for me to recommend, at full price, so definitely on sale. Gears Tactics is another game you'll have heard me recommend quite a few times if you follow this channel, and with a prequel game that was just recently announced, now's as good a time as any to check out this turn-based tactics spin-off. While I was initially very apprehensive that this was just going to be a cash grab, I was pleasantly surprised by my time with the game. Not only is it visually stunning, as is expected from the series, it also has some very fresh ideas when it comes to the genre, and it very nicely adapts the aggressive, brutal Gears of War brand for the slower pace that comes with turn-based tactics gaming. The momentum system encourages you to play aggressively. Bayonets and chainsaws attached to your rifles encourage you to charge into melee, and a variety of mission objectives not only keep you on your toes, but often pit you against some of the iconic monsters of the series, towering multiple stories above you and your squad. Travel from mission to mission, upgrading your squad members and taking advantage of synergies between their different classes as you modify and upgrade their equipment alongside their unique abilities too. Find the right combination of squad members for the task at hand as you take on the Locusts and learn more about the Gears of War universe in what turned out to be a legitimately good turn-based tactics game. I've been saying for a while now, Gears Tactics is good enough to deserve a sequel. It's a solid game with some very interesting ideas that innovate on the genre. It offers hours of fun for fans of the genre in particular, and if you're a fan of the series and the narrative that it comes with, then this is a beautiful spin-off and a great introduction to turn-based tactics too. You should absolutely check Gears Tactics out. Steel Division 2 is one of my favorite World War II games. It operates at a scale no other game even tries to. It has a level of detail that I rarely see attempted by other developers, and it provides a level of challenge that is just the right amount of overwhelming at first and rewarding when you overcome a fresh challenge. Whether you prefer playing in multiplayer or single player, if you like RTS games, this is a must-have even with its current age. Multiplayer games can go all the way up to 10v10, and some of my favorite memories on the channel are from when we organized these massive multiplayer games, coordinating actions across the huge maps, operating armor, air, artillery, and infantry in both beautiful tandem and organized chaos. But there are smaller maps available, and multiplayer games don't have to be 10v10, of course. That aside, the single-player modes allow you to skirmish against the AI, or play longer campaigns that feature a regional map where you move battalions around using a turn-based system, diving into real-time battles that reflect your turn-based moves, much like how the Total War games operate. It's worth noting that these campaigns can be played in co-op if you so choose, but they're just as fun when played solo. The scale of the game and level of detail are the two most appealing elements. I've spoken about the former already, but with regards to the latter, well, when you're picking out units, you'll be able to see all manner of details, from how easy they are to spot, to how much armor they have from any given direction, to how much armor penetration the different kinds of ammunition they're carrying actually has. And then applying that knowledge in the heat of battle makes for a very unique challenge, and that sense of accomplishment when you secure an important crossroads or otherwise push the enemy off a secured foothold with a combination of smoke artillery fire, air support, and rapid infantry deployment, or whatever strategy you come up with the tools you have at hand, is just, oh my goodness, it's such a great feeling. Steel Division 2 is absolutely fantastic, and I can highly recommend picking this one up at full price too. So on this massive discount, it is an absolute steal. Partisans 1941 keeps us with the World War II theme, but brings us the stealth tactics genre, putting you in charge of a small band of resistance fighters in Eastern Europe during World War II. After escaping from imprisonment, you set up a camp and bring together a band of misfits to help challenge the occupation forces in the area, going from mission to do so, returning to camp to rest and recuperate between said missions. You'll find the familiar trappings of the genre, from scoping out guard patrols and watching their lines of sight, to planning your movements and timings while using special abilities to eliminate or otherwise distract potential threats to your operation. But the game does add its own ideas into the mix as well. For one, resource management and how looting ties into the resources you'll have available at your camp is quite compelling, but more interesting is the impact of injury sustained mid-mission, where you'll see your character's performance suffer even if you manage to heal a wound. A bad enough injury will cause trouble until you're able to return to base, increasing the risk factor in an interesting, tense, and realistic way. After all, taking a bullet to the arm is going to mess with your aim, for example. It doesn't matter if you stem the bleeding and apply bandages, it's a bullet you took to your arm, and I love that the game takes the time and makes the effort to reflect such challenges. While the game was a little rough around the edges at launch, it has improved significantly since then, and at this price point, it's an easy game to recommend for stealth tactics in a setting that doesn't often get the limelight. Planet Zoo is an easy game to lose countless hours to between its multiple gameplay modes, ranging from sandbox to specific challenges on specific maps to my personal favorite, a franchise mode that is a blend between the open-endedness of sandbox mode and the challenge of needing to manage your finances, your staff, and your animals' well-being. If you're a fan of Planet Coaster, Zoo Tycoon, and other such management games, I think Planet Zoo is a must-buy, and you can collect the multitude of DLC over time as you look to add even more building pieces and animals to your collection. Free updates since launch have fleshed the base mechanics of the game out more and more as well, giving you new tools with which to look after the wants of your guests, including new ways to teach them about the various animals they'll see in your zoos, and the devs have made improvements to how you can go about breeding animals in your zoo to produce stronger and stronger offspring for conservation efforts. Beyond taking care of all the moving parts, as is par for the course for a good management game, the creativity that Planet Zoo allows with its building tools is absolutely phenomenal, allowing you to create all kinds of enclosures to fit the needs of your different animals while creating unique viewing points for your guests and interesting scenery and challenges for your own enjoyment too. And once you're done all that, there's really nothing like just watching the animals in action. The devs have done such a fantastic job of bringing them to life. It's always a joy to see them running around, playing, and just all around having a good time, knowing that it's a reflection of your hard work in keeping them happy. Planet Zoo doesn't rely on doing just one thing well. It does everything a management game needs to do pretty much perfectly, and if you're even remotely interested in the genre or the subject matter, it's just absolutely worth picking up, especially at this price point. 2 Point Hospital is another great management game, particularly for fans of the old Bullfrog Productions games like Theme Park and Theme Hospital, this one naturally taking after the latter more than the former. Coming in with that same classic sense of humor, don't let the comedic approach fool you too much. The management considerations are quite serious, even if you're helping people with wacky diseases and conditions. Go from location to location and discover new maladies and cures for them, laying out your hospital, hiring and training staff, beautifying the spaces, and providing the various amenities that come with the space. There's not much more to say about the game, to be honest. It's a simple premise, but it has fun with it, provides a decent amount of playtime, discovery, and challenge, and it's well worth picking up and checking out. Nebuchadnezzar is a great callback to the classic Sierra city builders Caesar, Pharaoh, and Zeus, this time taking us to ancient Mesopotamia instead, introducing some fresh concepts of its own too. When it first launched, it was a little on the weaker side, but free updates to the game since launch have really brought the game up to par, and I have no hesitation recommending it for fans of the classics in particular. The locked isometric view paired with the distinct art style will make you feel right at home, and as you place down residential plots and provide them with the various needs to watch them upgrade over time, you'll also deal with production chains and the industrialization fitting of the era. Build wells, marketplaces, shrines, and all the other typical fittings of an ancient city, and when the time comes, establish massive monuments to show the true capabilities of your people, designing them manually to your taste, a nice addition over the classic features that you'll see in the game. As with said classics, you'll go from map to map, taking on more and more advanced objectives as you're introduced to new concepts and mechanics and how they work together. All in all, you'll get a solid amount of playtime out of an experience that's been refined over time. If you didn't grab it at launch, now is a great time to pick up Nebuchadnezzar. Frostpunk is a game I've recommended countless times, and now with a sequel around the corner, you might be thinking you're better off holding off. While I won't review Frostpunk 2 based off my limited time with the beta, I will say that it's a completely different game compared to the first one, and so you should absolutely pick the first Frostpunk up if you haven't already. This is a genre-defining game, the bar-setting survival city builder. Frostpunk is set in an alternate timeline where an ice age caused the collapse of society during the Victorian era. You're in charge of a small city trying to survive against the harsh cold, and the setting introduces some great new ideas as you have to build around a central heat-providing generator, keeping an eye on the forecast for when the weather will get harsher or provide some relief. You need to keep your people's hopes up, and apart from providing them with food and coal and pursuing construction materials, you'll also need to pursue new technologies to improve your people's lives and capabilities, and you'll need to pass laws and policies to make sure society keeps running smoothly. Will you send the children to the mines to keep the heat running? Or will you abolish child labor in the interest of keeping the people's hopes up? Will you allow fight clubs to kick off to entertain the people? How will you deal with the old and infirm? These are all kinds of actual moral dilemmas that come up, and they're tackled in a way that most games shy away from. They barely come close to even imitating this kind of moral dilemma. And as you play across multiple scenarios, you get a better understanding of exactly how the world got here, with the DLC fleshing out the story further, including a prequel DLC that I found to be particularly compelling. Either way, Frostpunk is a top recommendation for me, and if the sequel was making you hold back, Seeing how different they are, I can definitely suggest you should still pick the first game up and give it a spin. Warhammer 40k Mechanicus remains one of the best 40k games as far as I'm concerned. An absolutely phenomenal soundtrack, a beautiful stylized aesthetic, and innovations that take the turn-based tactics genre and freshen things up. Even if you're not familiar with the IP, this is well worth picking up, especially at this price. You play as the titular Mechanicus, a faction whose members have sacrificed their fleshy humanity for mechanical augmentations and a pursuit of infinite knowledge. In this pursuit, your ship has come across a tomb world that serves as the home to the buried corpses of a long-dead robotic empire, the Necrons. Your arrival triggers their awakening, and you'll find yourself managing a ship full of soldiers of different classes as you go from location to location on the planet, dungeon diving, and racing against time as the Necron threat grows stronger, engaging with various opportunities, and inevitably diving into battle. Combat has some nice innovations here, as there's no dice rolls, and hit chances are always at 100% for you and your enemies alike, meaning you need to plan your moves very carefully, prioritizing cover and line of sight more than usual. Each unit is also interesting with unique mechanics compared to the norm for the genre, all inspired by the factions units in the tabletop wargaming IP, and even how the upgrade system works for your units is similarly inspired and different from the norm. With a sequel just recently announced, now's a great time to check this game out to see what all the hype's about. I hope this video helped you find some more great deals during this summer sale, and if it did, consider leaving a like and a comment down below, letting me know what you picked up or providing recommendations of your own. For even more summer sale recommendations without the $10 limit to price, check out the video linked on screen right now. Otherwise, as always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly. And of course, a big old thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.